Hey everybody, it's Jason Blaha here. Now that my two obligatory informative videos are done for the day, it's time to talk about current events in the online fitness community. And what can we say here? This involves everybody. This involves everybody. It looks like Nick's G for P should also be called Nick's Bodybuilding Panty Worship, or whatever he wants to call it. Again, a channel dedicated purely to pro bodybuilding, worshiping pro bodybuilding, talking about pro bodybuilding, doesn't ever actually do any training or lifting on his channel. But has made a name for himself talking about pro bodybuilding. Just covered the big fiasco between Jerry Ward and Robby Robinson. Well, I actually had to go dig a little bit into this because I was trying to figure out what he's talking about. Because Nick is trying to say, well, I don't want to take sides and I don't want to agree anybody's a scumbag. But, there's people threatening to be sued and it is questionable. Robby said all this weird stuff. And, I went to look at all of it. And it's like you have this ignoramus Jerry who is already, again, mentally deficient in his own ways. Goes on a rant about Robby Robinson, who, when you read what he writes, again, another ignoramus who clearly can't write English. You can barely read what he's trying to say. And there's all this back and forth happening because pretty much Robby made a threat, again, like an immature, mentally deficient bodybuilder. What do you expect? Again, let's go back. We're talking about pro bodybuilding here. Generally speaking, the pro bodybuilding community suffers from their own set of major mental issues. They suffer from, oftentimes they're mentally deficient. Not all of them. I've met some very intelligent pro bodybuilders who are very knowledgeable, who seem reasonably well adjusted. But by and large, as a community, the pro bodybuilding circle, they suffer from all sorts of enormous mental problems, emotional problems, body image disorders, narcissism. They all use so many drugs and abuse their bodies so much they end up half the time having addiction problems, mental deficiencies, and everything else from their drug abuse. I mean, it's just a mess. It's a mess of a community. So realistically, you have Robby who jumped up, and my interpretation of it, he has sickle cell anemia, has money issues. He has bills that he needs to pay as a result of it. I can see that. And again, he's got an outreach. So can I see someone who's a former professional in some endeavor with a big fan base, who's retired and older, having medical issues, maybe asking for money from their fans? Yeah, I can see that. I'm not even going to knock that part. If I was in that situation, hell, if any of you were in that situation, you'd probably do the same thing. I don't see a problem with that. I really don't. If someone's fans want to donate for their medical bills, who's retired, past their prime, not making money anymore, and they have a really serious medical issue, okay, that's a fan's prerogative if they choose to donate. All right, it's their prerogative. People have a right to donate money to whoever they want. And if someone thinks that their followers might want to do so for a good cause, it's their right to ask. Just like I might ask you guys to donate to the MD Anderson Children's Cancer Research Center. I think it's a worthy cause. I think it's fantastic. So that's fine. But then he threw a temper tantrum because I guess there were some math problems, and he set a goal of $7,000 and then raised it and then claimed he wanted everyone to give like $70,000 or $71,000, or he was going to close his social media down. A bit of a temper tantrum there, and then Jerry jumped in and made a big deal about it. And Jerry allegedly called him all sorts of names and other stuff. And then he jumped up and threatened to sue Jerry. Now let's keep in mind, guys, Jerry technically defamed me the other day, didn't he? Right? Didn't he commit defamation against me? But you don't see me jumping up screaming, I'm going to sue, and there's a reason. I happen to know a little bit about defamation. I actually have a defamation attorney on retainer. I actually have one on retainer because I need to have one on retainer due to previous legal issues I've run into, because I have been sued for defamation while living abroad, if you guys recall. I know a little bit about this topic. So I don't jump up threatening to sue people, even though Jerry defamed me. He called me a racist and essentially said that I was an active shooter waiting to happen. So in that case, I'm not worried about any of that, but that would be defamation. That would be defamation. But it's not worth suing over. And the reason for that, people can say all they want about, I'm going to jump up and sue this person for that. All right, it's fine to talk about it, but if you don't even know where the person lives and you're threatening to sue, I can already tell you don't have an attorney. Because in the United States, the way defamation works, those are state laws. There is no United States. You don't go to the federal government and sue someone for defamation. You have to go through their state, and you usually have to hire a lawyer specialized in their state. So if someone lives in, say, New York, you have to hire a New York defamation attorney to sue them. You have to sue them in the New York courts. So if you live, like let's say I live in Texas, I can't go to a Texas court and sue someone in California or New York for defaming me. I have to hire a lawyer and go through their courts in their local state. And by that same token, if it's another country, I've got to go to Canada. So let's say Strap On Destiny or someone defamed me and I wanted to try to sue them. I would have to hire a Canadian attorney, most likely in his province, to go through his local court system to sue him. It's extravagantly expensive. Lane Norton, who basically admitted in an interview, and so I know how much defamation could cost abroad because I saw the legal bills. Lane Norton sued me for defamation while living abroad and wanted like $500,000 or something in damages and all this nonsense, which I obviously don't have. And I refused to pay. I had legal loopholes that allowed me to, and I knew going into it that I was not going to have to pay. So I played the game and I ran his bill up as high as possible. And he ended up spending well over 6 figures. And he admits that he spent over 6 figures for that. He didn't collect a single penny. So he threw that money away and saw no return. He literally lost that money. He had to pay it. He lost it. He's never getting any of it back. And it wouldn't apply over here where I live because, again, Texas values free speech. Like, you wouldn't be able to sue me for the things that he sued me for here. You couldn't. It wouldn't be allowed. But the point is, when you're dealing with defamation, it can be very expensive. And I know because I had someone, an actual, I'm not going to go into who it was or what business or anything. I had a legitimate defamation suit against me since coming back to the United States. Like an actual, real, legitimate defamation that a lawyer looked at and said, yes, this is clearly defamation. This is clearly winnable. If you can afford to pay for it, I can pretty much 95% guarantee a win on this, but you're looking at a minimum of $50,000 up front. That's what I'm going to have to enter this, and you're probably going to go into 6 figures. Now, it's winnable, and we could probably collect, but if you can't come up with the money up front, we can't really do this. But it's clearly defamation. Major defamation from an actual company that had money. And I looked at it and realized I didn't have the 50 grand up front. I didn't have it. I don't have $50,000 laying around in a savings account. I just don't. So you have someone like Robby Robinson who wants to jump up and do that and say, well, I've got lawyers. No, you don't, because you have to figure out what state Jerry lives in. You're probably going to need $30,000, $40,000, $50,000 up front before a lawyer is going to file anything. And then the problem you run into, you have certain states like where I live, where defamation is actually a way to make money. So this is what my lawyer tells me here. He's like, basically, look, if someone wants to sue you for defamation, they're going to have to come to Texas. You've already got me on retainer. If they can't afford to follow all the way through, we're going to be awarded a default win, and then they're going to be sanctioned, and we collect money off them. And my lawyer actually told me that his best was he had that happen once, and he got one of his clients $1 million for being sued. Like, they were the person who committed the defamation, but the other party couldn't prove it. And the way Texas works, it's an anti-SLAPP state that once you file it in court, you can't back out. In other words, if you say, okay, never mind, I want to back out, and you can't afford the legal fees to follow it all the way through trial, Texas awards a win to the person you sued, and you have to pay damages. You got to pay their attorney fees. You've got to pay fees, and it can go up to $1 million. And so you make money. You're more likely where I live to make money by being sued by someone you technically defame or they accuse you of defaming. So in a lot of ways, defamation and defamation defense is a business. And it's a pay-to-play business, and you really have to have a lot of money to play this game. Like, you've got to have money up front. And so when people throw all this term around on YouTube, oh, I'm going to sue this person or that person for defamation, no, what they're going to do, they're going to pay a lawyer $500 or $1,000 to write a cease and desist letter. And I know at least one YouTuber who laughed and said he wipes his ass with, a cease and desist letter every month. He doesn't care because they don't hold any value. A cease and desist letter is a threat that they're going to sue if you don't quit, and it's usually part of the legal process that's required. So a cease and desist letter can make someone back down so that you don't have to sue them or pull whatever news story or whatever they wrote. And that's basically what it's asking them to do. But a cease and desist letter is required usually in most places before you can even sue, and then if the person takes the actions, your grounds for suit may not be there anymore. But you're just trying to mitigate. You don't want them saying what they said. You want it removed, right? In which case, also, anyone who re-uploaded it is also guilty. So in other words, if you sue someone successfully and even they get something removed, every person who shared the thing that they're sued for also has to pay damages. So they're actually legally responsible. But it gets really tricky. It's a big mess and it's expensive. And I can tell you right now, Robby Robinson doesn't have the money to sue someone for defamation. He doesn't have that sort of money. Jerry Ward's like, I would sue him back. Jerry Ward doesn't have the sort of money to sue anybody for defamation. He doesn't have that kind of money laying around. He doesn't. I don't have that type of money laying around. I have had legitimate cases of defamation that were totally would stand in court. I don't have the sort of immediate liquid assets to even sue people for defamation unless I got an attorney willing to take it pro bono, which defamation attorneys generally are not, because they usually look at it and say, well, if that person can't afford to pay, why would I waste my time? They don't have $200,000 in assets that we could collect. I'm never going to make my money. So, I mean, by that same token, neither I nor Robby Robinson could just jump up and sue Jerry Ward for defamation, even if he's guilty, simply put, because he doesn't have the assets to collect. So he doesn't have enough money to justify it, so all you would do is lose money. Exactly what happened when Lane Norton sued me. He lost over $100,000, and he didn't collect a single penny. He didn't get a penny out of it. He lost that money forever. So, again, complete nonsense, and this is all this bodybuilder showmanship and ego. I'm going to sue you, you're a scumbag, blah, blah, blah. At the end of the day, it's all talk. It's all talk. None of these people are going to sue anybody else. They're not. And it's basically a bunch of mentally deficient, washed-up has-been bodybuilders yelling at each other and calling each other scumbags and liars and whatever. It is what it is. So hopefully everybody enjoyed my spin on the drama. All right, guys, but that's really all I have to say on that today. I hope it's been informative or at least entertaining, and I will talk to you guys next time.